Last year, for April Fools, I did a little sketch involving a fan game titled Waluigi Land, but the video was just that, a sketch, nothing more. This year, to celebrate this silly occasion, I'm going to actually review it. I played for 2.5 hours, all for a serious review of this little-known Wario Land fan game. So, April Fools everyone, this is Waluigi Land. Now, I say it's a Wario Land fan game, but it's so in name only. The visuals are mostly ripped from Yoshi's Island, and the core gameplay is more akin to a traditional Mario game. In fact, the only element of this game that really borrows from Wario Land at all is the music, and even then, it's all just shitty midis of music straight from Wario Land 3, with the exception of the title theme being an original piece. It's an okay tune, but nothing amazing really. As for the midis, some are definitely better than others. At best, you have the Out of the Woods theme with its pretty accurate MIDI, even if it does have that trademarked MIDI sound to it. At worst, though, you get the Castle of Illusions theme, which is absolutely butchered by this droning low piano and overly loud string pluck samples. This was the only theme that actively irritated me, though. The rest are okay. Still just worse versions of good pieces from Wario Land 3, but mostly inoffensive. Now, while the music is mostly consistent in just being bad midis of Wario Land 3 music, the visuals are a bit more strange. You see, most sprites are ripped straight from Yoshi's Island, while the others are taken from Super Mario World, and they kinda clash. Additionally, there are some original sprites thrown in to allow for original gameplay mechanics. Stuff like power-ups, some special enemies, and of course Waluigi himself. Waluigi's sprites and animations are all actually pretty nice looking. He seems to fit in with the art style quite well, and the animation keeps the character's charm perfectly intact. The rest of the original sprites, however, don't fare quite as well. The hammer power-up looks okay, if a bit basic, but the rest of the power-up sprites look really out of place. From the crude-looking shield to the whatever this thing is that acts like a Mega Mushroom, nothing looks like it fits in the Yoshi's Island aesthetic, or even the Mario universe at all. Like, why couldn't this sprite just be a Mega Mushroom since it's functionally the same? This gun sprite too looks very basic, and even blended in with the background for me at one point. Plus, whenever you pick up an item with a limited ammo meter, it's displayed with this white bar at the bottom of the screen. It's a design element so counter to those of traditional Mario games that it really just exemplifies the fan-gamey feel that a lot of fan games have, if you know what I mean. The worst sprite of them all, however, has to be this bomber airplane. For one, it's way more detailed than anything else of its size. Secondly, these bombs look more like a single bullet stretched to make it look bigger. On top of that, they look really blurry, and that combined with how fast they move across the screen, without any animation might I add, make for a very disorienting view. Overall, the indecision to stick with one art style of ripped assets from another game or original assets for new mechanics makes for a visually inconsistent mess. When it's just the Yoshi's Island sprites, it looks good, but when Mario World or original sprites are thrown into the mix, it all just clashes together and just looks off. While I'm on the topic of visuals, I'll point out that I may have accidentally forgotten to switch my recording to 720p instead of 480p, so the whole game is going to look kinda blurry. I really didn't want to re-record all this footage for reasons I'll get into later, so my apologies for the kinda ugly footage. I promise the game doesn't really look like this. It looks like this. Yeah, for some reason the window size is extremely small with no option to increase the game's resolution or size or anything. I ended up playing through OBS's preview window just so it would be bigger on my screen. It was that bad. Anyway, with all that stuff out of the way, how well does the game play? First, some history on this game. It was originally released as a demo on the website Mario Fan Games Galaxy in 2009, but didn't see a final release until 2015. So with a grueling 6-year development cycle, is this a fan game that's had years of love and effort put into it to make it the best game it can possibly be? Could this be the AM2R of Mario fan games? No, it's not. Unfortunately, it is just as janky and awkward as it looks. At first it wasn't so bad, with some cool original power-ups and interesting ideas. I was thinking this game had some serious potential. So let's talk about some of that. Like I said before, this game is played more like a traditional Mario game rather than the puzzle platforming action of the Wario Land series. But Waluigi has some special abilities that give his adventure a unique twist. The main power-up you'll be seeing throughout the game is the hammer. This allows Waluigi to strike enemies or blocks in front of him with this very satisfying swinging animation, and can be charged up for a mega attack that strikes just about everything on the screen. It's a really cool move, and its ability to destroy brick blocks allows for some very creative level design in regards to enemy placement and secrets. That potential is definitely seen too, as early as the first level, with coins stashed underneath brick blocks, coin blocks placed on ground level surfaces, and blocks covering pits that you have to be careful not to break. This concept is what I can applaud Waluigi Land for the most. It's not only really fun to use as an attack, but has level design potential that is very much realized in this game. Unfortunately, if you get hit just once, you lose the power-up, and they're usually spread fairly thin throughout each level. However, if you manage to find a hammer power-up while you already have a hammer power-up, you'll instead find a shield that gives you 1 extra hit of damage without losing your hammer. I still think they're spread a little too thin to really do the most with this concept. Ironically enough, having an infinite life system like in Wario Land 2 and 3 would have complemented this design choice fairly well, but it's a fun power-up nonetheless. Alongside the hammer are a jetpack that allows you to propel yourself upwards under a limited amount of fuel, a Mega Mushroom ripoff that I mentioned earlier, but with the added danger of making sure not to throw yourself into a pit, a gravity gun that lets you pick up bricks and enemies for some conceptually interesting puzzle platforming challenges, and a gun. Just a regular gun. They can also be discarded at any time, but honestly, I forgot that was a thing you could do and just held onto them until I got hit anyway. These power-ups are nowhere near as fleshed out as the hammer though, but they do offer some interesting variety and each get some special spotlights here and there. While all of these core mechanics are pretty cool on paper, there are 2 major flaws with this game that seriously hold it back: the controls and the level design. Okay, first the controls. It's kind of hard to explain bad controls without just having you play the game and get a feel for it yourself, but I'll try my best. It's kind of like Mario 1 physics, where you don't gain momentum in the air, so if you don't have enough speed when you start a jump, you can very easily undershoot it. Unlike Mario 1 though, you gain speed rather quickly, enough to get max speed off of a 1-block platform, so as long as you take your time in playing your jump out, it shouldn't really be that much of an issue. Unfortunately, the level design doesn't often allow for careful planning of jumps, but I'll get more into that later. Additionally, Waluigi feels very slippery, especially when platforming in small corridors. I had plenty of deaths from trying to input a specific movement but just not having a good enough grasp of the physics to execute it well. Waluigi can also do a ground pound, but only while he has the hammer. Since the only utility ground pounding offers is breaking something below you, something the hammer can already do, I often forgot it was an ability I even had, and on many occasions accidentally ground pounded right into a pit. I played this game for 2.5 hours and never got used to the controls. In wide open spaces with plenty of room to maneuver, they're fine, but in tight spaces or on small platforms, they can be an absolute nightmare and make for an incredibly frustrating experience. But that's only the half of it. What really kicks you in the balls in this game is the level design. As early as level 4, I was raging. The imprecise controls mixed with cramped level design, bottomless pits all over the place, and some extremely annoying enemy placement made for one of the most frustrating experiences I have ever had with a video game. And it doesn't really get any better after that. Starting with level 5, I couldn't even finish them. It was a miracle I even beat level 4, but even then it took me 50 fucking minutes. I cannot put into words just how frustrated this level made me. After game overing near the end of level 5, I was just done. I couldn't take it anymore. I went back to the main menu and was just looking around there when I noticed the level select had level 6 available, even though I didn't actually finish level 5. So I tried it out and, sure enough, I was in level 6. So, with this exploit in mind, I decided to try every level until I game overed and then see the next one, just to get a feel for the game's overall difficulty curve and see if there was anything interesting that I was missing out on. Level 6 is pretty decent, if a bit bottomless pit heavy, and level 7 is alright up until this obnoxious difficulty spike near the end where it game overed and moved on to the next one. Level 8 is a ghost house stage with boos chasing you, boo rings, spike balls, and tricks and traps all over the place. This, however, is where the enemy placement goes full on Kaizo. Look at this, I'm trying to get through boo rings on top of donut blocks on top of spikes while 2 bullet bill cannons are shooting at me. My space is too limited to dodge the bullet bills thanks to the boo ring, and I can't plan my maneuvers around the bullet bills thanks to the donut blocks. The window to get through this section is so ridiculously tight I couldn't do it a single time, and this is basically the beginning of the stage. I had to give up on this stage here, and level 9 didn't fare that much better. It does introduce a really interesting mechanic with these light switch blocks. If you don't hit one, the light will slowly fade until it's pitch black and you're platforming around blind. Hitting one of these blocks resets the counter for the light and gives you a burst of visibility to make it to the next block. The light source blocks are fairly close together, but since you can't scroll the screen backwards, you still have to act fast so as to not let the light fade away before you get to the next light block. It's a really cool level, but much like the rest of the levels in this game, it goes on for way too long, and the slippery controls and cramped hallway level design were just too much for me to get through this one. Level 10's unique gimmick is enemy spam. Fun! The farthest I got was right up to this checkpoint, immediately surrounded by enemies, the jumping ones being especially annoying to deal with, and a poorly placed hidden block being the end of my journey here. Level 11's unique gimmick is ice. Fun! Here they introduce a new variation of the default enemy that can't actually kill you, nor can you kill them. However, if you touch them, they'll spring you backwards. You're given one of these enemies to toy around with at the very beginning, and then are immediately asked to do precise one-block platforming bouncing on top of them, and it's fucking awful. Unsurprisingly, I didn't get very far in this level either. Level 12 is another castle stage, and like the one before it, it's fucking dog shit. Right off the bat, you're forced to make jumps onto one-block platforms with dry bones-like enemies on them under limited space with fireballs in the gaps between each jump. This is the beginning of the stage. Cramped space and horrible enemy placement made this level another that I didn't get very far in. Level 13 is one of the worst levels in the game. This is where the gravity gun is introduced, alongside TNT boxes, nitro boxes, and falling comets. All at the same time. Past the first 3 stages, new mechanics are never given enough time to be individually introduced and fleshed out before all being thrown onto you at once, and the result is levels like this one that are just so overwhelming they're near impossible. The TNT boxes can be picked up with the gravity gun and thrown to destroy a cluster of boxes, but can also hit you if you're not careful. The nitro boxes will kill you on contact. Comets also randomly fall from the sky and destroy whatever they land on. One of my deaths in this level was caused by one of the comets randomly falling right on top of the nitro boxes, destroying my only platform to stand on. By this point in the game, I was just begging for it to be over already. I was so tired of playing it, I just couldn't take it anymore. I just had to see at least some of every level, so I pushed onward. Level 14 is this incredibly obnoxious cave with these launchers that shoot bouncing balls and basically take up all of the available space for you to move around, explode after a short time, and immediately shoot again after the last one explodes. There's no room to move around and no time to get through in between shots, and later in the level they start putting multiple cannons together at once. It's an absolute nightmare. Level 15 is an auto-scroller. Fuck this stage. Level 16 is another ghost house, but now with crushers. Unlike in Mario World though, these crushers insta-kill you if you touch them, regardless of your power-up state. These, along with some more wonderful hidden blocks, make for another very frustrating stage. Level 17 is another ice level. I didn't get very far, and don't have much to say about it other than it sucks, so let's just move on. Level 18 is another cave with a light problem. Unlike the last one, however, we have no control over it. The light just randomly goes out every few seconds. This is more of a nuisance than an interesting mechanic due to not having any player control over it. This level also features one of the worst jumps in the entire game. So alongside this obnoxious light flickering, you have this jump up here, with no space above you, and a spike-topped enemy guarding a 2-tile-wide platform. There is just no room to maneuver around here unless you have a hammer to charge attack the enemy from a safe distance, but getting this far without losing the hammer is near impossible, especially with the light flickering on and off every 2 seconds. I even clipped into the wall at one point. This actually happened a few times throughout my playthrough, but I only bring it up now just because it was the most egregious example. I only made it past this jump once and tried to use the opportunity to get on top of the level and cheese past it like I did in level 2, but to no avail. At this point I was so annoyed I just skipped to the next level. Level 19 is hands down the worst level in the game. I think this might actually be physically impossible to beat. Once again, we're introduced to a bunch of new mechanics all at once, this time being the mines, which hide in the ground and explode on contact, airplanes which shoot down missiles, fireworks that shoot up and explode into little pieces, and the golden bullet bill, which creates a big explosion when it touches something. The problem is that the hitboxes for explosions are god-awful, and literally all 4 of these things are plastered in front of you at the very start of the stage. I'm really not exaggerating here. You walk forward and just instantly die. I really tried to see how far I could get into this stage, but I just couldn't do it. I swear, it's just impossible. I couldn't last more than 5 seconds in this level. Level 20 is the last of the castle stages, and it might be the worst one yet. Now we have to deal with fire bars, bullet bills, regular enemies, wimps hopping around, 1-block gaps, lava bubbles, all in cramped corridors. The only new mechanic here are the wimps, but even they get spammed to an unnecessary degree. Level 21 introduces spears that come up from the ground when you get close to them, and the fire enemies from Mario 3, once again at the same time, with no room for you to learn their patterns or how to avoid them before spamming them at you. Really, it's just more of the same obnoxious bullshit. Level 22 is another auto-scroller. Fuck this stage. Level 23 begins with a bonsai bill that steals your power up every single time, followed by a laser shooting cannon that blasts your ass the second it comes on screen. Again, I barely made it more than a few seconds into this level. Level 24 is the last level of the game. This level is again a ghost house stage, using the snake block along a straight path with a bunch of fucking bullshit TM for you to avoid as you go. So what do you get for beating the final level and finishing this awful game? A special end level where you walk around this one screen while the title theme plays. No credits, no cutscene, nothing. I only ended up beating the last level off camera because I initially gave up after the first 15 minutes, but you're not missing much with just this screenshot. Quite the anticlimactic ending, but I can't say I really expected much more. If you're wondering why I essentially gave a level-by-level tour of the game, it's because the level design is so fucking horrible, I can't even begin to describe it without just showing you. It's like every level has its own unique way to fuck you over. From the slippery and imprecise controls to the cramped, spammy, obnoxious level design, this game is absolutely fucking dreadful, and one of the most frustrating games I've ever played in my life. It's honestly a shame because this game does have some really interesting ideas like the hammer or the light switching mechanic, but rarely are new ideas fleshed out in a way that gives the player time to get acquainted with them. Most of the time you're just plopped into a level with this new mechanic shoved into your face and are expected to know exactly what to do with it the second you see it, and then react accordingly. It's just way too difficult to the point of being annoying, and for that reason I would not recommend this game. Being that this is just a fan game, I'm not going to put it on my review scale since I don't think it's fair to compare it to these big budget Nintendo games, but I'm sure you can all guess where it would be if I did. If by chance any of you are morbidly curious enough to try the game out for yourself, I've left a link to the page where you can download it in the description, but please, don't force yourself to play more than you want to like I did. It's not a fun time. Well, thank you all for watching, and I hope you're looking forward to the true finale of my Wario Land marathon and for some fresh content. If you enjoyed the video, consider supporting me on Patreon for your name in the credits here and all that stuff. See you next time!